My husband announced he was selling my late father's architectural firm to fund his sister's $200,000 destination wedding in Italy while I was still in the recovery room from an emergency surgery he claimed was too inconvenient to attend. I lay in that sterile hospital bed watching the live stream on my sister-in-law Tiffany's Instagram as they toasted to their newfound fortune and joked about how the sickly wife was finally out of the way so they could live the life they deserved. My husband Julian stood in front of my father's portrait in the boardroom, a room he wasn't even authorized to enter, and told a group of local investors that I had signed over my power of attorney because I was mentally unfit to handle the stress of the business. Tiffany laughed into the camera, showing off a 5-carat diamond ring Julian had bought her with company funds, and sneered that it was about time my father's dusty old legacy was traded in for something with actual class. They had no idea that while they were busy planning a wedding on my dime, I was using the hospital's high-speed Wi-Fi to finalize the activation of a poison pill clause my father and I had embedded in the company's bylaws years ago. 3 days later, I walked into my own house, the house Julian thought he'd already listed for sale, and found them throwing a pre-Italy party in my living room with my mother-in-law Beatrice, who was currently draped in my grandmother's vintage fur coat. Julian didn't even look guilty. He just sipped his scotch and told me that since I was clearly too weak to be a partner, he'd already arranged for a car to take me to a long-term care facility where I wouldn't be a distraction to his sister's big day. I didn't argue and I didn't raise my voice. I simply pulled a single red-stamped document from my briefcase, the original ironclad trust deed that proved the firm had been transferred to a private holding company 6 months ago, making Julian's sale not only void but a federal act of fraud. I hit play on my phone, broadcasting the security footage of him forging my signature on the power of attorney documents directly to the group chat of every investor he'd lied to that morning. The music stopped and the room went dead silent as Julian's phone began to vibrate with calls from the district attorney's office and the bank informing him that his executive accounts had been flagged for immediate seizure. I looked at Beatrice, whose face was a mask of pure horror, as I reached out and pulled my grandmother's fur coat right off her shoulders, telling her that if she wanted to play high society, she could start by finding a lawyer who worked for free because I'd just fired the entire legal team Julian thought was protecting him. I leaned in and whispered to Tiffany that her Italian wedding was officially cancelled since the funds she'd been bragging about were currently being redirected to cover the legal fees for Julian's embezzlement trial. I walked out to my car as the police arrived to escort Julian and Tiffany out of the home I'd purchased with my own career earnings long before Julian ever stepped foot in my father's office. They thought they were burying a broken woman, but they forgot that I was the one who designed the foundation they were standing on, and I wasn't about to let a couple of parasites live in the house I built. As I watched the flashing lights in my rearview mirror, I realized that family doesn't sell your soul for a vacation, and they certainly don't underestimate a woman who knows exactly where the bank accounts are buried.